All right, I think we're live. Let me check
Nice.
that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Cool. Yeah, we're live.
Nice.
Okay, so let's wait a minute or two just to make sure we have people jumping on,
Yeah, for sure.
and I will share the stream link on social media as well.
Yeah. Is there, yeah, I'll just put it on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to do so. All right. All right. Welcome everyone.
Nice.
Thanks for joining. We can already see people saying hi in the chat. Hey Karen, nice to have you. So today we're having Sam. SamJ, how should I call you by the way? I see SamJ everywhere. On Twitter, on your
Yeah,
socials, on your
SamJ,
website.
anything is okay.
Cool. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
anything is fine.
Awesome. I think there's a small delay, but should be okay. Yeah, that's so cool to have you, man. Thank you very much for joining for this first like super spotlight. I've been experiencing some issues with the live stream setup just a few minutes ago, so I kind of like was in a rush to set everything up. So it's kind of like the first iteration of the super spotlight. SamJ kindly accepted to be the guinea pig for this one, and is definitely like a great guest to do that because he's so cool and chill and nice, and I expect that he won't beat me up even if um, we have some trouble happening. But yeah, so let's dive into it. This cool guy on the right is SamJ. Welcome, Sam. So you've been dropping like your first artwork recently on SuperRare. Um, I bet like there are tons of. I mean, I see that you already have a crowd of people following you for some time on social media and stuff. But I'm pretty sure like more people deserve to know about you and to know where you come from. So yeah, how about starting with a short introduction about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sounds good. I personally started with sort of, I guess, digital art in a way, like right before I started high school. So when I was like 13 or 14, I wanted to be a bit more creative, but I figured it was too late to learn how to draw, which is kind of funny thinking back now, like so long and later, it's like I was so young. But I instead downloaded Photoshop and started taking computer graphics classes all through high school. And by the time I was finished with high school, I went to college and I studied graphic design there as well. And
Cool.
that was, I personally didn't enjoy the graphic design education there, but it was an interesting experience because they made us take a lot of interdisciplinary classes. So, um, painting and screen printing and like 3D sculpture and jewelry making, lots of different techniques, which I think you can definitely see reflected in my work even now after I finished school. And that was what I enjoyed most, was like learning all these different uh, techniques and kind of developing your creative process through multiple mediums. And so I didn't feel so stuck to just working on the computer. And so I sort of learned to enjoy how to like actually make physical things and interpret them into also digital media while at school. And then I graduated in December of 2019, and I went into freelancing as a motion designer.
Cool.
So a little bit of like animation and graphic design and illustration. Like that's also sort of a diverse field to work in, because as a motion designer, you work with sound and design and illustration, sometimes video footage as well. So I got a lot of different work through that, but obviously with COVID,
Hmm.
and especially right out of school. And I went to school in the US, and then when I graduated, I moved to Amsterdam. So like moving to a new city,
Yeah.
and then all of, with COVID, it really was difficult to get any like major starting points with freelancing.
Yeah,
Luckily,
definitely.
with social media, I was able to, still support myself with a few jobs here and there from like Twitter and Instagram and all of that. But I wasn't where I wanted to be exactly, um, because Amsterdam is such a creative city. I wanted to work more with the people there, and I wasn't really getting that, obviously, because of COVID. But then in about August or September, I discovered crypto art, and I just started
Nice.
minting my work on several different platforms.
Hmm.
And I sort of started with the most experimental work that I had done previously, just for fun, on the side, and then that was well received. So then the new work I produced was even more unique, and sort of delving further away from my background as a designer and more into the
Yeah.
realm of like a practicing artist or a fine artist. And
I'm
that's
super
been
curious, if you don't mind. Like, I'm super curious, like, where, when, and when did you make the leap to like be an artist? Is it something that you've been doing since like a young age, or I mean, and taking the leap to like also earning a living from not being only a freelancer and using your motion designer skills, but as an artist and as a fine art artist. Super curious about like your drive, um, for making taking the leap.
Yeah, that I think that was always the plan. I saw a tweet earlier today from another motion designer that there's sort of a pre um, existing track or like path that you kind of have to take. Like you work at a studio for a certain amount of time, and you get work experience with like larger industry clients through work at a studio, and then after that you sort of develop a reputation that's strong enough to go freelance, and then
Yeah,
after a couple of years of freelance, then you can kind of go and work fully independently. And I was lucky enough to have a few internships at some pretty cool studios while still in school. And I figured when I was graduating and I was moving, I thought, I was like, this is going to be quite the change. Like, I might as well go full send and just skip working for a studio. Like, I already
yeah,
have that experience interning, and I wasn't super satisfied with that. And I knew I wanted to eventually be an independent artist at some point. And so I felt like I didn't want to. I already felt like I was wasting time at school. And so I finished school. I was like, I don't want to feel like I'm wasting more time working at a studio I know I don't want to work at for very long. So I've been pretty committed for a while. I never even really
cool.
wanted to go to school directly. It was more of just like future proofing. I might as well get
Yeah,
it out of the way
sure.
now and not have to worry about it later. So I think definitely by the time I was done with school, I was like, I don't want to waste my time doing anything I don't like anymore. Like I put in my hours, I did my work for the last 4 years, so I want to
Yeah.
at least try to leap into freelance and get a step closer to actually being able to be an independent creator.
Cool, man. I bet there are so many people feeling like you do. I kind of feel like I felt the same at university, like kind of like wanted to, to go to the things I liked. But it's so cool to see that. I mean, you've been making the leap and you've been making it so successfully. I'm wondering, like, previous to crypto or previous to SuperRare, um, like, yeah, how were you seeing, how did like crypto art like change kind of the landscape, the way you see it, like you saw things and how you could probably like monetize, and I don't know. Was it something, a new element that was welcome or that you planned for it? I expect like you didn't plan for it because it's pretty new, but yeah, curious about like how you reacted and how you made your way into the space.
Yeah, so I think I was lucky enough to find crypto and like Bitcoin and Ethereum pretty early. So I actually had been buying and selling like Bitcoin and Ethereum all throughout my uh, education. So since
Smart.
like 2016, yeah, and that actually helped a lot. I kind of like sold all of my crypto by the end, and I had some money to like help sort of give a safety net for jumping straight into freelance.
Cool.
And so I'm already familiar with like the technology behind it, how it works, how like volatile it is, because especially now everybody's talking about 2017 when it peaked in
Yeah.
2017, and I was there for
Sure.
that, so I'm definitely aware of like how crazy this goes. And um so that part was pretty exciting for me. It felt like almost like it was meant to be. I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I've been struggling, especially after graduating and being able to do anything. I was, I've been doing makeup and drag all through college as well, and like that's
Yep.
something I could get into. And I'm pretty into fashion, and I am, somewhat involved in the fashion scene in Amsterdam, so I could also go that route. Like I was looking at maybe interning at a fashion house and sort of moving my career that way, or maybe even going back to school and getting a master's in some sort of, fine art or fashion studies or something in
Yeah.
that realm. So I was really torn in like how I can incorporate all of these things into one, if that was even possible. And like I'm also into music. I DJ'd for a while. So,
Sick.
a lot of these things were sort of like swirling in my head all through, going through college. I'm like, how am I going to get this together? And like, I guess, it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind because I was like, well, I'll do that later once I'm an independent artist. And with crypto, it all kind of happened so fast. So I sort of saw
Yeah.
the opportunity and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I have to hop on this right now. This is the perfect thing. I can, really combine everything and have the freedom and to combine all these things I've been thinking about for the past few years. And luckily, it's really worked out. Like I've been doing a lot of experimenting and
Yeah.
pushing myself, and I think it's sort of the sum of all of these little puzzle pieces that I've been developing throughout the last like 8 years of creating digital art and design and stuff like that.
So cool. So cool. I think you're doing so great, man. And that's really cool. And I think that's a nice segue into your the first artwork that you dropped on SuperRare. So yeah, part of the reason like for the this new like Super Spotlight show is for artists to kind of come and chat a bit about one of their artwork. So in that case, Sam dropped like the event. When was it? Like a few days ago, a week ago, something like that.
Yeah, a little over a week ago.
Yeah, and yeah, so um, I think myself, like I've seen that you've been. I mean, you're pretty active on social media, on Twitter and stuff. So I've seen that you posted a few videos and walkthroughs, and how you made the artwork. Let me check. Is it cut? Yeah, I think it's cut. Yeah, better not. Um, yeah, and how you made this. Yeah, but I'm super eager to hear a bit more about the thinking behind this artwork and how you came to create that. And if you can tell us a bit about the process, I think that everybody would be eager to hear a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I talked about this a little bit on social media, but something I was sort of struggling with in using other platforms with crypto art was that I felt that there wasn't necessarily an audience for more conceptual work, and it had to be very aesthetic based, like maybe just a singular, like a still image or like a really fast GIF, or something that is immediately recognizable as like oh, this is cool, I like it, I'm gonna bid on it. And so having now access to SuperRare, I think that SuperRare is a great platform because it sort of provides a more artistic concept to it. And rather than it being sort of focused on NFTs and crypto art and the technology behind like the crypto scene, it's more focused on the art. So I felt the
Yeah.
liberty to really push the concept and develop something that's like really more unique, and I don't think would necessarily fit on other platforms. And
Cool.
yeah, and I don't know, I had this sort of visual aesthetic in my head,
Yeah.
um, based off of some pieces of clothing that I already owned or some inspiration I had seen around. I don't really keep like Pinterest boards or mood boards or anything. I just kind of have mental notes, I guess. I keep it all in my
Sure.
head.
Yeah. Sure.
And
Makes
I
sense.
like pull out different things for each project. And so, um, yeah, I pulled some inspiration from like drag queens and makeup artists and club kids and
Mm-hmm.
vintage designers. Like I listened to this podcast about historical fashion, and there was an episode about Vivienne Westwood, which is like a very punk designer in the 70s in London. And so
Nice.
this was all sort of in my head at the moment. And I really like the idea of playing with also like my body and gender and the sort of spectrum of how you can present yourself. So I
Yeah.
kind of pulled all of these ideas and um,
And it's great.
yeah, jumped off of.
It's really good.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I'm curious, like, is there a process or a step? I mean, what was the main struggle like coming up with the video? Is it was the process like super smooth from 0 to 1, or you know what was a challenge for you making this?
I wouldn't say it was necessarily like smooth, but I also think that nothing unexpected happened, which is very nice because
Nice, yeah,
I think, especially with like the video art and the green screen stuff, I've kind of knowing I was like, okay, I'm really gonna do this video. I want to sort of step it up. So I got like better lighting, and I kind of tried to fix up some of the weak spots of my previous projects to make it easier. But yeah, I sort of started by looking at what I already had and that what fit my vision, because I'm really about reusing pieces and being sustainable. And I don't like the
cool.
idea of, just buying clothes to wear them once. And so I looked at what I already had and how I could take pieces that I've, made already or I own already and incorporate them into this aesthetic. So, um, and then so I had these like plaid pants. I don't even think they're really that visible in this in like the final cut of how this turned
Yeah,
out, but they're like sort of patchwork black and white and red and a little bit of green plaid, and this like harness and the grills and like lots of jewelry. So I sort of came up with the first look of me as like a sort of, yeah, you can see the pants a little bit there, but
yeah,
so I came up with that first concept, that first look, and then I was like, okay, how can I make it more feminine? How can I make something that's like feminine but still meets this aesthetic? And then I also had this idea of making just like a very organic, sort of blobby, non-human form shape.
yeah,
And I've worked with making sort of sculptures, I guess, or just like weird like wigs or headpieces out of balloons for drag in my past. So like going to festivals and stuff, I'd have just like a bunch of balloons off my head. And so my first thought was just like, okay, I'm just gonna make something and stuff it with balloons. And so I just went to the fabric shop,
cool.
and like red vinyl kind of fit with the sort of like punk fetish, like post fetish vibe. And so once I got all of the outfits and makeup looks sort of down in my head, then I sort of created these animated backgrounds, like the diamonds in the background or the
Hmm.
checkered pattern going in the background to match those. And I'm kind of doing these all at the same time. So like while I'm sewing something or trying to find jewels to make a headpiece of some sort, I'm also rendering 3D things overnight, because um, I think one of the more unique things about making video art is like there's so many moving pieces. You kind of have to work on them all at once. So, you know, when I'm rendering some of these backgrounds, they have to render overnight. And so I'll like, okay, well, I still have to sew something tomorrow. So I'll render this overnight. So then by the time I'm done shooting everything, I already have all the assets, all the 3D pieces, you know, all of the stock footage I need. So I can just go straight from the, you know, shooting part, which is kind of the hardest
Yeah.
because you're assembling all these physical pieces and then, you know, you're putting them together digitally, and I already have all those digital assets. But yeah, luckily I've sort of done a few projects like this already, and I kind of had an idea of how that would flow and the workflow I needed to do. And I also have a few friends that make music, and I sort of know the process of how that works. So I was also talking to a friend of mine to get a song made for this as well while this was all going on. So it's like you have to put on a lot of different hats to make this all come together.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, yeah. I mean, I bet the diversity of skills that you have to put together in order to create an artwork like that is pretty pretty wide. So yeah, I mean, the final artwork looks great, and I guess the bidding has been going pretty well as well. So
Yeah,
um,
I'm glad it was received well. Like people, you know, it was kind of, I was nervous to post it because I think it was, first of all, I'm sort of presenting myself in so like so many different ways, and they're very non-conventional. So it's a bit like, oh shit, are people going to think I'm just really weird, or are they going to appreciate it and like think it's unique? But luckily people sort of, you know, did think that it was cool and saw that, or they appreciated the sort of like splash it made. A lot of people said like,
yeah,
oh, this is a big splash being made.
sure,
But yeah, so I'm glad that it was well received and that I got some pretty good bids.
cool, man. That's definitely a big punch in the face when you first watch it. I really like it. Um, yeah, I am wondering like um, what you've been I think you've been mentioning Vivian Westwood just
Hmm.
earlier. Like by the way, if anyone in the anyone watching has a question, you can definitely ask that in the YouTube chat. I check it out, or on Discord. But yeah, on my side, I was wondering like if there were a few inspirations or artists that you get your inspiration from or you admire as a person or as creators. Yeah, super eager to know about your icons and all that.
Yeah, I would say definitely like first comes to mind, I would say Mason Margiela, because in terms of how he released all of his clothing, a lot of it was like artisanal. So he made like a necklace out of a corkscrew or a wine cork, and he was like very resourceful. Like he made sweaters out of like cutting socks and repurposing socks into sweaters, and sort of the I don't really know how to explain it. It's like sort of sustainable, but that wasn't the point. The point was to kind of um I mean, I guess it's the term is anti-fashion, and for a while I considered myself an anti-designer in terms of graphic
Okay,
design. But
interesting.
Margiela, like if you look at Versace, it was very like bright colors and shiny and lots of like gold chains, and you know, it screamed like high class wealthy woman. And then Margiela was
Hmm.
much more um artisanal. So it wasn't trying to scream wealth, it wasn't trying to scream luxury. It was more about the creative process behind it. And also his story, like he would cover the models' faces because he wanted them to focus on clothes. And he just had a lot of unique takes to presenting his work as well.
Yeah.
So in the end, the brand was really great, not necessarily because of the clothes, but because like he never interviewed, nobody knows who he is. He like was so like the way he presented his clothes and the way he created his clothes was very unique. He didn't put labels like in his clothes, and that was very shocking at the time because he really wanted to remain anonymous and like have a statement with his runways, and he would and like that I think is very inspiring to me because it sort of demonstrates that he really didn't look to the people who are already successful as inspiration. Like he wanted to pave his own path, and that resonates with me because in my opinion, like if someone is successful for doing something really well, like they've already done that. That's been done, and you know that's already a path for someone else. And so I'm now really curious to sort of develop my own way of doing things and finding my own path and sort of showing other people how things don't always have to be done the way you expect them to be done. And there's a great documentary about Mason Margiela that I recommend watching.
Cool. Do you know
Yeah.
remember the name or of the documentary? Otherwise, you can
Yeah,
definitely share it after the stream.
yeah, I'm pretty sure if you just like Google Margiela documentary, it'll pop up. But
Cool.
yeah, I think
Sounds good.
definitely I look more not necessarily to like the visuals of an artist that inspires me, but like the story of the artist and what they did and why they did it and the context of it, and that motivates me because yeah, the impact that you can have as an artist I think is more important than the art itself. And like, oh, it looks pretty, but like there's more to, you can
Definitely.
make it mean more than that.
Definitely agree, and I think that's a conversation we had last time shortly, and I'm pretty new to the to the art space in general, and I tend to function like that. Like when I want to, when I'm fascinated by an artist or a person, I'm often very interested by what this person, the story behind the person, or where he comes from, why he's doing or she's doing something, and yeah, and I think like um I think that makes that's something that today, like as an artist, also like given like the competition that you have in the landscape, like of I think it's important but to create like this storytelling and more like share more about yourself, um your your process, give more transparency, also like share more about your identity, who you are, so people can really anchor what what you mean to them, and also relate to you in many ways. Yeah, and I'm quite curious of also, like I think that's something that you were pretty aligned with, and I'm quite curious of how you see artists like developing your career as an artist today, like as a 20ish years old in 2020. um, what do you think are you know things that have made you succeed so far, and things that you think like are imperatives for artists to kind of like develop their career, their become visible in some way, and also build a relationship with people at the age of the internet, social media, and whatever. um, yeah.
Yeah, it can be kind of difficult to, you know, find an audience and find your voice. Like I said, you know, I started this 8 years ago when I was like 14, and I've been posting my work online for this whole time. Like, you know, I had a Twitter when I was starting out. So, and my Twitter now is, I think, almost 8 years old. So it's not like I started making art in September when I started putting it in crypto, and now all of a sudden I found this like success in such a short time. In reality, like I've tried and failed to find success in a lot of different other
Hmm.
communities and in my past. But to me, it's not necessarily about like finding success. It's about making it's definitely a balance. Like you have to find a balance between,
Sustainability, right? Like, I mean, you want to
yeah,
be able
like,
to provide for yourself,
yeah, right.
and while making what you want.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I was trying to do while freelancing, is make a lot of work that to develop a portfolio that was unique enough to get cool projects while still having a skill set that could get me sort of the more basic, well-paid, consistent jobs. And I really do think if you are passionate about something, like there you will make it work in your own way, and there is some like a path that you can find. I don't really think that I really have a hard time giving people advice because um yeah, like sort of went to school for this, which is already like I'm very lucky to be able to say I, have a
Yeah.
degree in fine art, and like a lot of people don't have that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who are doing a lot better than I am in terms of like money that, and having a larger audience in fine art that didn't go to school.
Mm.
But yeah, I really think you have to find a good balance of like making what you want and developing an audience around what you like, who you are and what you like to make, while still, being able to maybe take in commissions or sell prints, or have that side hustle. And it can still be a creative side hustle, but there does have to be some sort of balance until at some point you can fully become that independent artist and just make work for yourself, and there's a demand that's high enough for that. And I think luckily crypto art has really like leveled the playing field, making it a lot easier for artists to have that opportunity to just make the art that they want, and find an audience for that.
Yeah, definitely. And we hope that it's going to to keep going and to keep growing as well. To make that kind of like opportunity available to more and more artists. So yeah, I think that's a great way to close this first like super spotlight. I don't know if Sam, you have anything you want to say before we go off. Um,
No, I covered quite a bit. I think we talked about a wide variety of topics.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and there will be, so that's the first one. Maybe there will be other ones. So I'll be happy to chat again with you in the future. So let's see. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I hope you like this first iteration. Just like feel free to give feedback on what you want to see on the stream, and also like artists you'd like to see. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, Sam, and see you on the internet.
Yeah, thanks.
See you, man.